I swear, I just make the thumbnails for the week and then I start playing with these things. And I'm sorry if you guys feel you look stupid in some of them. I just start to play with them. I'm like, why not? Let's try this.
I like it. Can't take life too seriously.
I hear you. It is Sunday, the 23rd of March.
Chris's birthday.
It is my birthday.
Woo!
Thank you very much. I've got steaks defrosting in the sink. The wife and daughter are going to make me some banana pudding today, which I'm excited for. No?
No.
Ask for cake.
In my life have I been like, you know what sounds good? Banana pudding.
Really?
No.
I love banana
I had
pudding.
an actual banana this morning. That was good.
Good for you. No, she asked for cake. And I was like, no, actually, I don't want cake. Because every time we have cake, there's only 3 of us. We'll get cake and then we never eat it all. That's what I wanted. But I'm happy to be here. I'm just as happy to be here as Nicole Kidman is happy to be at AMC Premiere Plus Theater. I hope you all are as well. Allory, it's good to have you back. How are you?
Thanks. I'm good.
Anything fun and exciting these last 2 weeks?
Not really. Just trying to make it to spring break because ours is disgustingly late. It's not until April 19th. And then it's like, what's the point? Because the school year is basically over.
Well, it's one, that does suck. Well, 2, we screwed up Aubrey's spring break and told her grandparents to come a week before. We fucked it all up. Laura, you're muted, but how are you?
I am good. There's just a lot of dogs dogging right now. Yeah, it's been a good time since I last saw y'all.
That's hilarious. The little one needs a leash. The big one don't.
Laura, I'm sure you guys saw the group chat. Laura sent me a phenomenal birthday gift yesterday. One of my heroes, Archie Griffin, made a very nice little cameo video. It did in fact look like he was on the toilet, but Archie's 75 now, but he looks great for 75, and he might have been on the toilet.
Yeah, he looks great.
On the toilet.
Here's what I
feel
mean.
like the window's the only reason I think maybe it wasn't a toilet. But
we have a
but like, I don't know. I was just watching. I was like, "That's a bathroom." I'm like, pretty sure.
Honestly, it makes it more special for me.
Yeah.
And Kiara, what did we have at the Mexican restaurant yesterday?
Listen here, this is a family show, so I'm not going to talk about the Mexican restaurant because driving home was hit with every level of anxiety any adult should never feel on their drive home from a Mexican restaurant. But I had tacos. I had tacos. A singular taco that was heard around the world, I'm certain. It was not a good time. But the conversation and the people that I went with, it was super cool to catch up. I went with some old high school friends. So yeah, but I did end it by what happens next needs to happen in my home. I hope you guys have a lovely evening. Goodbye.
I bid you adieu. Very awesome. We're talking about the last house on Needless Street today. I've got toast in my throat. Hold on. Okay, we're talking. Yep, there we go. Does everyone have this cover, by the way? I saw a couple different covers.
I just have the audiobook.
I don't blame you. Oh yeah, it was free too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What a bonehead I was. I actually have looked at a lot of reviews saying a lot of people really, really applaud the guy who did the audiobook. I heard it was actually pretty good. Before we jump to movies, books, anything noteworthy we've consumed other than The Last House on Needless Street?
I watched Adolescence on Netflix, which I highly recommend. It was incredible. It's only 4 episodes. So it just came out. It's a British show. The guy who stars as the dad in it is like one of the creators and directors. But each episode is filmed in one continuous shot. So they would rehearse like 10 times, which is extra difficult when you remember that one of the stars of the show is a 13-year-old boy with very limited acting experience. So it is about a 13-year-old boy who is accused of murder, and then like the fallout of that from his family. It wraps up in 4 episodes. I devoured it. It was so good.
Really? So was there anybody like noteworthy in it?
Not anybody that I knew, but they're all British. So, but I can't remember the main guy's name. But like, people were talking about him like they knew him.
They were talking about me like they know me.
Him.
Okay.
Junior dad in adolescence. What I have learned is that nobody can spell adolescence.
I can't.
I'm not gonna do it in front of you three.
I just wrote it down and I'm not even sure it's right.
Stephen Graham is his name.
He sounds familiar. Laura, we watch anything good lately?
I read Quicksilver this week, and I
Okay.
really enjoyed that.
Love it.
Yeah, it was good.
Kiara?
Last week I read Remarkably Bright Creatures, which is not a typical read for me. It read more like a Hallmark family movie with like a feel good, wholesome ending. But I was sobbing by the end of it. Definitely a 5-star read. Do recommend. It's basically the story of like the interconnectedness of a group of people. There's some death in there. There's some kind of like a little bit of mystery, but it's not meant to be a mystery. But it's really just about a kid finding his way. Not a kid, he's like 30 years old, but a guy finding his way in the world and learning the importance of community and family and those kinds of things. I really didn't think I was going to like it. It's multiple perspectives, and one of them is a giant octopus. But they really do quite well. I enjoyed it. And then other than that, I rewatched the first 2 seasons of Wheel of Time because the 3rd season just came out. My friend and I are going to watch or start watching the 3rd season probably later today. And then I told you guys I'm obsessed with this Epic thing. It's not TV or movies, but it's like a musical that's like loosely adapted from the story of the last Odyssey or the Odyssey, and it's just it's one of those. I know, Allory, you said you have a hard time picturing things, but it's one of those where the movie plays for me, and I really enjoy it. It's nice. That's recommended. It's on Spotify. I can't tell you about Apple Music. I know you guys live there, but
Not Allory.
No, hard pass.
She's I assume Allory, she gets this, this whole population of kids that, she teaches and everything. She gets up and hip to the what's new and what's not and what's better. She gets the pros and cons of all these. I am almost certain, right?
I am ashamed a lot of the lingo that I know that has made its way into my daily vernacular. That sometimes I talk like a teenager. Yeah, because.
Oh, so you're saying you incorporate them?
Yes.
Give us something.
I mean, I can't think of anything in particular other than I ironically started saying bro, and now I start almost every sentence with bro or like bruh.
Bruh.
I have to get into my 13-year-old's ass every day about bro. The dog is bro. The fucking cats are bro.
Yeah.
She slipped up the other day and I was bro.
Mm-hmm.
Ladies, I told you I got that crazy I shouldn't have streaming box, and I have watched so many things. Sorry. I've written them down. I've given them scores. I will let you know if you've got any follow-ups on them. Mickey 17 by one of my favorite directors, Bong Joon-ho. I give it a 9 out of 10. Phenomenal ending. Arguably one of Robert Pattinson's greatest acting performance because he plays multiple individuals, multiple dialects or accents, what have you. It's a fun one. It's if you ever happen to watch his early movie he did on Netflix, that Okja had like the creature on it. It's kind of like that. It's very much a Starship Trooper-esque kind of story. They go and they leave Earth and they need to inhabit a new planet. Well, this planet is inhabited by creatures, and who's really the alien here, or do they really want to harm us or not? It's very, very good. Very funny as well. I finished season 2 of Severance. I give it a 9 out of 10 as well. I
I've
would have
watched
given.
the first 3 episodes now
Okay. Well, let me ask you
of
this,
season
Allory.
2.
Well, you've seen the first season. What would
Yeah.
you have rated the first season?
The first season was a 10.
Okay, I give this a 9 out of 10 because I think that Severance season 2 as a season was better than season 1, but
But
obviously
then,
the cliffhanger for season 1 elevates it so much.
yeah,
This season's cliffhanger isn't as bold, but it makes a decision, and you
yeah.
have to decide how you feel about it.
I do like that like I said, we finished episode 3 last night, and we're finally getting some momentum where like more
Yeah.
decisions are being made and less questions. Like I still have a ton of questions because why are there so many goats? But now like we're at the point where like, okay, this is a turning point. Something big is happening.
So I can say this then. You saw who is the leader of the goats.
Yes.
Lover.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I immediately told him, I was like, wait a minute. I know who that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leave it at that. I watched and ladies, I'm going to let you. I implore you to watch it yourself and maybe tell me what you think of it, because I think that we got it wrong as a collective. I watched Anora, and it gets a 6 out of 10 for me.
I have heard kind of back and forth things on Anora. I have not watched it, but I know a lot of the critiques are that one, there was no intimacy coordinator, and there definitely should have been. Like she turned it down. She's very young. Yeah, I've heard mixed things about it.
I love Sean Baker, so I haven't watched it yet, but I'm gonna get to it at some point.
Can you tell me what else Sean Baker's done?
Like Florida Project is one that comes to mind. There's another one.
I've seen that one.
Yeah,
I've seen
I
that one.
really like the Florida Project.
For Sean Baker, I would wholeheartedly argue it's probably one of his best films. It's a very heartfelt and somber ending to it, but I Jen was telling me about it, like how these articles came out about how they bought their Oscar, and I kind of see it.
They spent like 3 times as much on their Oscar campaign than on the budget of the movie.
Well, not even. Then I looked, and then Jen went and looked at the Oscar campaign money. It was like buying these executives dinners and shit like that, and taking them out. Like, what happened to just making a great movie? Don't get me wrong. I think is her name Mikey?
Mikey Madison, yeah.
Yeah, I thought she was great.
I thought she was great in Scream 5.
Hey, there you go. I thought she was good in the 10 minutes she was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Even though she gets like a can of dog food to the face. But no, she's very good in it. She's a stripper. She goes and gets married, and they elope, and he's got these Russian ties. But the whole movie is literally they come to bring the young boy back, like, no, you can't be married. This isn't what you do. And then he runs away. And the whole, let's call it 2/3 of the movie, is a cat and mouse chase trying to find this young boy who's like 21. This young man.
It was mostly a love story.
No.
Oh, that's definitely how it's advertised.
You're absolutely right. Yep. But it's definitely how it's advertised. I was very disappointed. I wanted to. Jen saw that the whole they paid this much money for their Oscar campaign, so she instantly dismissed it. I'm like, well, let me give it a shot. I'm like, okay, I'm not jiving with it. And lastly, I watched Small Things Like These with Cillian Murphy. It is a small novella. I can't recall the young woman's name. It's a small novella. I think we watched the trailer like a couple months ago. Cillian Murphy, he's working in this little Irish town. He delivers coal. He sees that these young girls are being forced against their will to the Catholic Church. It is a very heartfelt movie. It couldn't have cost them more than like $1 million to make. Maybe like $2 million, and that was probably just to pay Cillian Murphy. But very heartfelt, very, very bare bones story. Hey, guy's a good guy. He's got 5 daughters, but the Catholic Church runs everything in the town. He sees terrible things happen. Now he gets bribed. He decides what's the right thing to do. Cillian Murphy's Cillian Murphy. He does the right thing regardless of what everyone thinks and what the town thinks. And regardless if it's Christmas morning, he's going to do the right thing. So I enjoyed it. It was a very Cillian Murphy, one of his probably top 3 performances, but it's literally just how little dialogue he has. Like he speaks very infrequently in this movie. He might have 4 or 5 pages of lines in this movie. That's it. He doesn't talk. He talks a lot with the stare of like disbelief of terrible shit that's going on in his town, and that kind of speaks volumes. I've got a couple other things that I want to watch, but I've caught up on Daredevil. Love Daredevil.
Didn't watch, I think, the last season. I don't remember.
The last season was my favorite. It was the most grounded. It was the most real. It was, and it sets up this one, but there's an awful lot of, it's kind of right on the nose this season. Wilson Fisk becomes mayor. He's definitely Donald Trump. The police force is taking justice upon themselves doing things. I mean, they even have the little Punisher tattoos on their arms. Like, come on. Like, it's definitely something that you need to get your grasp on if you want to continue to watch it. But it's very close to home, and also close to home in a good way as well. Huge death right off the beginning of it, though. But I like it. And Mythic Quest. We've been watching Mythic Quest. Love that video game show. It's got Ashley Birch in it. I know I love Ashley Birch. It's got Rob McElhaney in it. They're a video game developing company.
I know what you're talking about now.
Okay. Yeah. It's on Apple.
We're just rewatching Ted Lasso.
I heard that they were doing another season and he's coming to the US in this one.
He didn't confirm where it would be, but he is coaching a women's team.
Okay. Very nice. Very nice.
People are pissed because it's woke now that he's teaching women. No. They clearly did not watch the 3 seasons that are strongly based on equality, and
it's already woke. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here. I am excited for, which I have not watched the 2nd season of Shrinking, but they have confirmed a 3rd season, and they confirmed that the main character, Jeff, I can't remember his dad will be in the next season. It's Jeff Daniels. But that was pretty good. We are going to talk about and review The Last House on Needless Street. All 4 of us, we're going to go through our reviews. We're going to collaborate, talk about some theories, whatnot, and then we're going to do part 2 of our Creepypasta from 2 weeks ago. This one is titled Balloons. First one was Footsteps. This one is Balloons. Allory, did you listen to the first part?
I did this morning before we started this. I was like, I need to go back. I had to put it on 1.8 times speed because that video is very slow. But also, I was like, I have a book called PenPal. It's that. This has been on my shelf for years. No, it was one of the bookseller picks at Barnes and Noble.
Well, we're glad you haven't read it.
But I was very tempted because it was moving so slow to stop the video and then just read it on my own. And then I was like, okay. And then I figured out how to speed up the video that I did.
Perfect. Yes. This was one of my, like I said before, one of my favorite creepypastas, and it got a lot of hype and publicity because the Creepcast guys did it on their YouTube channel, and then so many people jumped to this guy's stuff and his Patreon. They got him to publish that book. So yeah, I'm very, very excited for that. We got a comment. Watch yourself. Hey, what's up, Brian? Hope you're doing well. Brian, I don't know what corner of the world you're in, but you're more than welcome to come back and talk some books with us, bud. I don't know where you are, but Mission, I hope you're doing well. We're going to go in whatever order I have it on in here, and we're going to start with Laura. Laura, go right ahead.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed this book. Right when I started off, I was like, I don't trust anyone in this book. Did not trust a single narrator. And like there were certain little pieces like sprinkled throughout where you kind of feel you're like, oh, I'm piecing it together. I know what's going on. Like for me, one of the things is like a couple of the different characters mentioned like the same pit in their stomach, and it was like written the same way. I was like, that's suspicious. But then I did not have it figured out. There was still a lot of surprises at the end. And I was really wound up in this book. It was consuming my mind when I wasn't listening to it. Kyle asked me what it was about. I said, I have no idea. Ask me again later. So I enjoyed it a lot.
All Tim knows about it is lesbian cat.
Yeah.
Like a religious lesbian cat. And he's like, what's your book about? And I'm like, I just started it, but there's a gay cat.
Yeah, there's a gay cat in here.
I didn't, when I really texted you guys that as we were reading, that I was like, yo, is this cat a lesbian? I didn't think that was actually going to be like a subplot. I was like, oh, I was just kidding. But
I know, that was like, I was cracking up when you said that, because I like had already been further on when he brings it up to the bug man. Like, I think my cat's gay. I was like, this cat's gay.
What in this book, what stuck out with you when it came to her writing style? I thought she had, how do I want to say this? I don't want to start getting into my own thing.
I really enjoyed like how descriptive everything was. Like I could feel like I could picture the house really well. I know Allory doesn't do that, but
picture the house.
I don't know. Like
I know the main character has a red hair and a red beard. That is all I know.
That cat's not trying to push its religion on you this morning, is it?
Is that Olivia?
Right.
This is nighttime.
Okay. Brian says, hey, I read 3 Body Problem series. I have a mother-in-law that tells me it's a Netflix series that she really enjoys. Did watch the series as well. Okay. And I did like the liberties they took. Okay. I take Brian's seal as a seal of approval. Yeah, my mother-in-law even watched it, and I don't think she's a sci-fi person in a sense. What about, do you have any questions that linger after the book was over or the story was over?
Just a general sense of what the F did I just read?
Did this book make you want to see what else she's written?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just like not my general genre of reading right now, but maybe in the future I would check her out. I would definitely, if I was book shopping, came across something of hers, I would definitely give it a second look.
But it was better than last month's book choice for you.
Oh, yes? God, yeah. I actually finished this one.
Okay. Did you have like percentage scale? Did you have any idea when you get to that last real like third of the book? Any idea how close were you to anything being right?
I would say like maybe 60%. Like I was starting to figure out some of the like relationship between Olivia and Lauren, and there were just like good hints at it. And again, like some sentences she said, like the pit in the stomach description, I was like, that's exactly how she wrote it for the last character. And it's just, but yeah, no, I had no idea the full scope of everything.
Right.
The D situation just completely threw me off.
Now I know you're a person that watches Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Every time you see D, did you think of D from Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
Yes.
I was like, oh, D, you dumb bitch. Like every time.
Which kind of ended up being true.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, she was kind of a dumb bitch.
Yeah. I was not expecting her to be an unreliable narrator.
Yeah.
I didn't like her from the beginning.
Yeah.
She was talking about slapping her sister and all this other stuff. I was like, you ain't good. I don't know that there's a good character in the whole book, if I gotta be honest with you.
Yeah, I didn't.
I think the there's a monster in all of us thing really rang true for every character.
I almost
didn't expect
like
to have pity for Ted at the end.
Say again?
I said I didn't expect to have pity for Ted at the end of it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I could see that. I could definitely see that. Any last words? Anything you want to ring true to the 4 people that gave us hearts and the 2 people that are watching?
It's definitely worth checking out for sure.
I feel you. I absolutely feel you. Next up in my random order. Shit, it's me. All right.
Do you want to give a little synopsis, Chris?
No, absolutely. Let me see. I can give. Yeah, let's do that. You're absolutely right. I'd like to give something that's rare. I'll give what I wrote here. Obviously, hey, we're in a story. This is a man who, he lives alone. Used to live with his mother. Mother is no longer with us. It seems like this man was dependent on his mother in some way, shape, or form. And then a young girl has gone missing. Okay, she's gone missing, and he becomes prime suspect number 1. This man is a very peculiar, I would say maybe even eccentric man. It rings true that he is an animal lover, which, it almost checks a lot of boxes. I mean, don't get me wrong, everyone's allowed to love animals, but this guy definitely has a lot of tropes about him that raise a lot of alarms. Let's say, how else I want to say it? It becomes he lives in this dilapidated house at the end of the street with his daughter, who sees once a week, Lauren, and the cat Olivia, and he struggles with memory gaps and he has a kind of a tense relationship with his daughter. And there on the street you've got Dee. I think her last name is Walters, right? Dee Walters.
I don't.
They say her last name. She's driven with this desire to find her missing sister, and she believes that Ted is the culprit. Dee goes and moves into this abandoned house next door, and her presence alone kind of throws Ted's life in a sort of chaos. She seeks to uncover truth about her sister's disappearance. The story is definitely filled with secrets and unexpected plot twists, and it keeps the reader guessing to the true nature of these characters and these relationships. It is definitely a story that has themes of trauma, guilt, revenge, and I would say the complexity of human relationships. And if you're a person that likes stories to be straightforward, you might be in trouble because it is a unreliable narrator, and honestly, it's a couple different unreliable narrators in this story. So I think that'd be my overarching summary there, in a sense. I gave it a little bit lower score, and it's not because of the context or the content that was on the page. The reason why it gets a 4.1 from me is I never call it. My wife is always the person that we watch movies. First 10 minutes, she's like, nope, that person's not even alive. That person's dead. I'm like, what? She's like, no. It's M. Night Shyamalan movie. Those aren't their grandparents. They're fucking crazy people. I'm like, oh, I guess you're right. I think I've only called the plot of a movie or a book like twice. And one of them was like being Shutter Island. I think first 5 minutes, I'm like, he's crazy. My wife's like, no, he's not. And I got her. And I was just like, I was just braggadocious the rest of the week about it. But
riding that high.
Right? Well, I was riding that high. And I was riding that high to where I texted Allory a week or so ago. And I'm like, hey, have you started this? She's like, no, I haven't started this. Like, girl, I think this dude's crazy. I think this dude's got DID. And I called it. Okay. And that's nothing against Miss Ward and her book. Her book was phenomenal. She's a very great writer. She's very descriptive. She hones in the details when she has to and embellishes them when it's necessary. But it's just me as that personal standpoint. Like, hey, I call it. I think I know it, and I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to ride with it for the next 250 pages. And that's again, that's nothing against her. That's wholly me. I wrote my summary was at first, the last house on Needless Street seemed like a complex story that is told from different perspectives. The synopsis does not say much, which is a good thing to me. The main plot is about Dee, who moves into the abandoned house next door to the man Ted, who she suspects kidnapped her sister many years ago. The story is told by multiple POVs: Ted, Lauren, Dee, Olivia, the religious talking cat. I know the couple of y'all that are watching, if that's what's going to sell you on the book, it's going to sell you. But I'll be honest, like the first chapter or two, there was just so many like kind of moments, like, oh hey, he's taking a lot of pills. Or like, hey, he's got the pet stays in an old freezer that has holes drilled in it. Like, come on, what? Who the fuck does that? The amount of medication he takes in the first chapter alone, I'm just like, okay. The premise, of the story depends on two main things: unreliable narrators, and of course, DID, dissociative identity disorder. Both of these have made many things and made their ways in movies and literature. Like examples like Psycho, Fight Club, Beautiful Mind, and a plethora of others. What makes this story stand out for me is the way the author treated the plot and her characters. It's very peculiar, and yes, at sometimes confusing, but it's not an annoying manner in any way. And I think in a lot of books or movies where you have these themes, that can become kind of like, okay, yeah, we know, or okay, it's kind of annoying, you keep bringing it up, and this like we have this collective understanding. There's this feeling of strangeness that reminds me of kind of like a Neil Gaiman book, or maybe some Tim Burton films in a sense. There's some of that little just kind of seeping through to me when I read the book. It's kind of good. It's interesting and good to know that it's going to be turned into a feature film here soon. It has been picked up, so I'd be interested to see what ingredients of this book shine through.
I don't know how they're gonna do that.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I did my research last night. I didn't know they actually got picked up the rights for it. Andy Serkis's production company picked this up, and I like everything Andy Serkis. Yeah. So, I quite like the story. I didn't love it as much as I wanted to, because if I didn't go out of my way to, like, nah, if I didn't stand on this hill at the very first chapter, and mind you, that's chapter 1, chapter 2 is told by a cat. So if I didn't stand on this hill from the get-go, I thought it'd been fine. I think the main reason was, again, me predicting the plot right from the beginning. Somehow I knew early in the book that this was another case of almost like a Norman Bates Psycho. That's kind of what I thought when I thought of Ted. It kind of erased a little bit of the shock factor for me, why it's a little bit lower. But I really liked it. When I make this stance, when I read chapter 1, I'm like, oh, this dude's crazy, or hey, this dude's got DID. I don't become the reader anymore. I become the detective. You know what I mean? And I'm reading this book differently now. And that's just how I think the story is solid. I think it's solid because the way the author executed this book, because she gave you enough and she gave it to you in the right order too. The pace is fast enough, I think, for anybody to really enjoy it. I think it was a very entertaining read. I very much liked it. I love that you guys gave it a point, that 10th of a point, so we can be a little bit more finite when it comes to these reviews. So it made me think a little bit more, because I know we read Tender as the Flesh, and as blunt and brutal as it was, it had some cool stuff in it that I haven't read on the page before, and I gave it a 4, so I had to give this one a 4.1. That was my review. Like I said, I think it was a very good book. I would be interested to read some of her other works. I think she has 3 other books out already. I could be wrong. I think she's got 3 out already.
I know one's Sundial and Little Eve, which won a bunch of awards.
Do we know any of the themes of those two?
And then there's one called The Girl from Raw Blood. They're all horror.
Okay.
But that's really all I know. There's an excerpt, at least in my version, of the first chapter of Looking Glass Sound.
Well, like I said, I thought, as brutal as it was we read Tender as the Flesh last month, and it was stuff I would always remember because I haven't read stuff like that on the page. and I went and bought her next book, and I'm going to read that. I would not be, if I saw another one of Miss Ward's book on the shelves, I wouldn't hesitate to pick it up and give it a try. Next in the shoe, Rando, Kiara, you're up.
It's me. Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. I gave it a 4.5. If you look at my little Instagram blurb, it's a 4 for the read and a 4.5 for the twists for me. I think the book really took a turn for me when I went to audiobook, and really it had nothing to do with the book, or it didn't have everything to do with the book. It had a lot to do with my brain just not wanting to read in that given moment. But as I was going through the book, I don't know. I'm one of those people who gets like caught up in like tiny things that I shouldn't get caught up on, like choices to italicize or choices to capitalize or choices to indent or things like that. And so like I had a hard time reading some of the, especially the cat chapters. Just kind of not, but I know that that gives part of the feeling of the different narrators. I
The italics
fl-
were her recordings.
and then it's like when she talks in other chat, I don't know. I know that it was purposeful, but it was distracting for me. Um, I don't know. But yeah, the read itself, I didn't really like it in print as much as I liked it on audiobook. So I got a little bit of a ding there. And then but the twist, so when Chris talks about like at the very beginning, Chris talks about like DID, it was a theory for me. It did not sink in right at the first chapter, but I also did not understand the extent to which DID moved throughout this book. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm get it. He's blacking out. It's likely, but he also takes a lot of pills and drinks a lot of alcohol. So I was kind of like in this space, like, is it alcohol induced kind of blackouts or is him's crazy? But at the same time, I did not imagine by any means um the trickle down that moves into Lauren and Olivia. So that was very confusing for me at first. I think, like I said, 4.5 for the twist though, because it's so well written. I thought that like she gives you pieces and then she takes away and then she gives and then she takes, and it's this nice like cat and mouse with the narrator, or not with the narrator, with the author, to where like you think you know what's going on, and it's like you kind of do, but you're half wrong. Okay, but here's the other half of the equation. And then you form another hypothesis. It's like, okay, you got a little closer, but you're still half wrong. Here's a little bit more. And so you play this kind of cat and mouse with the author until you finally get to the end. But the cat and mouse lasts until the end, which is also nice because I do read a lot of thrillers and I get very irritated when I get to there's 100 or 150 pages left and I know what happened. Like that's the most irritating thing in the world for me. Because then I have to get through the last 150 pages to be the completionist that I am and say that I finished it. So, but ultimately, definitely Cat and Mouse had me wondering if I actually knew who I was and what was going on throughout. But then I also think it does a really good job of looking at mental illness and kind of the like human factor of everything. So like my academic background is in psychology, so I enjoyed the read from like a scientific perspective and kind of the case study that it turned out to be for DID. It gave me, you didn't mention this in the list of things, but it gave me more Split. I don't know if you've read Split, or not read, but watched Split.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, so it gave me a lot more of that.
I was thinking James McAvoy. You're absolutely right.
I love how he comes back to us all the time.
James McAvoy.
he needs to come back to us all the time for sure. But then also I put a little note on here that like I'm a terrible feminist because I did not suspect the women at all. I knew that Dee was not a good person in the beginning, but I truly did not suspect the extent to which Ted was not faultless, but kind of, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Brian says anything horror, I'll read it in my own detriment. That's why I love you, Brian. Um, you did say it right. She gave us enough at times and not too much. I felt like I wonder how her method was is like, here's my story. Like, let me just take this tab off and leave it from you, and take this tab off. And I always am, as someone that would love to one day write like a mystery or a horror book or something of the sort, how people go about with their process of not giving you enough and leave it to the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd read it, Chris. Write it. It needs to be shared with the world.
One day, maybe that's my goal for 35. Just start the great American novel.
Yes.
No, great. I didn't. I thought kind of Split when as soon as I think DID. I mean, let's be real. If I say DID, I think Split's always kind of the first thing that comes to mind because I know people who have like multiple personalities, but I never put a term to it until I've seen Split. So no, absolutely. And last, Allory, let's see which your font's a little different because you sent me your review last, and I didn't save this. I didn't save this template. So you get like this really big one.
Well, I also would change my review to a 5 because I sent you mine last night before I went to bed, and I still had 30 pages left because I had not finished it. I read the bulk of this book yesterday. I think I was 100 pages in by the end of Friday night, because I'm a procrastinator, but also I have a terrible memory, so everything needed to be fresh in my mind anyway for me to do it justice. So I read all of it in print, which I do not usually listen or read thrillers. I don't read a lot of them in print. I mostly listen to the audiobooks. So I've been listening to a lot of like Frida McFadden books, which are twisty, but never twisty enough because sometimes they feel cheap, which is not to discredit them because they're very, very entertaining. But I'm never left like, oh my God, at the end. And if I am, I'm kind of like, oh, that was like, sometimes it feels very shock value-y. And not just her, just thrillers in general. That's how I feel about a lot of them. Like they're really entertaining, but they don't leave me like awestruck. This one did. I loved everything about it. If you have not read the afterword, you need to read the afterword. She talks a little bit about her writing process because this book did not start as a case of DID. Like it was with Ted, a killer, and a talking cat, and then they just kind of morphed, and she spent a long time researching and talking to people with DID. I also have a psychology background. So I'm very much like a go with the flow type of reader. I don't try to analyze anything. I don't try to figure things out. Like I don't stop and think about it later. I just read it or listen to it. Because I don't like to overanalyze things. I like to analyze them after the fact. So I did not really see any of the twists coming. And because it was a thriller, I kept expecting, like, I feel like when you know it's going to be twisty, that my expectations are lowered because a lot of times the twists aren't that good or they're cheap. And I feel that way about a lot of, like, again, I love thrillers. I love to listen to them, but I think a lot of times, like, you're not going to get Gone Girl every time, right? Like, that was the book that I read in print. And I remember, like, gasping out loud and then going to my mom's room and being like, how far are you? Like, in this book, I need to know where you are. Because we were both reading it. But I think that from the get-go, I just took Ted for a serial killer. And I think because I've listened to, like, consumed so much, like, crime-based media, true crime or fiction crime, that there were so many things that, like, yeah, he would live in a gross, dilapidated house. Even when Dee is talking about her meetings with the detective Karen or whatever, tired Karen that she calls her. that like the profile of him really added, like matched up with Ted, and they had him profiled as a man because he had taken a little girl. And so I didn't have big expectations for twists. So when the first one came and we learn more about Olivia and Lauren's connection, I was like, oh, okay, that's a pretty good twist. And then she kind of gut punches you again down the road. And you're like, oh, okay. And I did not see that at all. So I personally hate dissociative identity disorder as a plot twist. I think it's been done so many times in TV, in movies. I think Split is wonderful. Split I actually love because it's not
because Anya Taylor-Joy's in it.
Yes, that was one of my early exposures to Anya Taylor-Joy, and I would die for her. But it was one of the first like representations where I've seen it, and it wasn't used as like a gimmicky thing, because you find out really early on what's going on. It wasn't the plot twist, right? The plot twist was you're like, oh, he might actually be a supernatural being at the end, right? Like you're like, oh, right. Because humanly he could not do this. But it didn't, like, this did not feel cheap at all. It felt really authentic. And I think the POV from Ted at the start of the book to the end, like, I think there's a big difference in, like, the beginning, his first few chapters, he sounds really infantile. Like, it does sound like he has some sort of disability just because of the things that he's narrating. Like, he's making these really weird recipes. He refers to his mom as mommy, which he continues to do. But, like, it's really infantile. He can't identify a lot of the feelings that he's having. But then if you go to, like, the final chapters, I think he's a lot more well-spoken. And I think it really, like, I think you can see the influence of other characters in early Ted that you can't see in the end. And I think that was brilliant.
Good point. Yeah, that's
but
a good point.
All of the clues, right, that you look at, that we get throughout the book make sense in the context. They're not cheap clues that you're like, oh, well, that doesn't make any sense. And then so when it comes back around later, you're like, oh, that's why they did that. Like, they're all things that make sense in the context, because Ted can't feel pain, right? So we think that's just one of his, like, there are people that can't feel pain. And he talks about when he was a child and not being able to feel pain. So that makes perfect sense. But then when you find out why he doesn't feel pain, you're like, oh, that's crazy. But I never questioned it from the beginning, because that's a thing. Sometimes people can't feel pain. But there were a bunch of little things like that the reason I bumped it up to 5 is because I would reread it, and that's usually my criteria for a 5-star read, because I would just like to see so many of the little things that I missed, because there were a lot of them that as they were being explained, I was like, oh my God, that makes sense for what I thought was happening and what is actually happening, which I think is really, really difficult to do.
Yeah, when Laura brought up whether or not she would reread yesterday, that I was like, that's the only condition under which I think I would reread, is because there are nuggets. There are nuggets that slipped right by me, and I want to pick them all up.
Yeah, I would absolutely reread it down the line. Even because obviously, like, the major twists and revelations are not gonna leave, but all of the small details will, and I think that would make a really good second read later, to be like, oh, these are the things that I missed.
Absolutely.
And these are the times that some of these characters were straight up lying to me. D.
Rude as hell.
Right?
No, you're absolutely right. It's the change in narration from Ted. Absolutely. I after I read it, I sat back and think, I'm like, hey, this guy did change. This guy, the way he was, it was almost more of the bluntness in the way he talked, and brought it out towards the end. I've got to ask, could any of you watch your sister lying there on the beach and walk away and go smoochy face with somebody else? Did you
She
not
was
think that was just totally?
facing before.
It was just so absurd to me.
Yeah.
That was very very wild. And we can talk about the amount of absurdities. Like you can just talk about Ted's mother alone. Like what a fucking insane crazy. I got like the parents from like People Under the Stairs when it came to Ted. I don't know if you've ever seen that Wes Craven classic, but I definitely got that, and it was just like some of the what description of talking about peeling birds off of fucking what are they, mouse traps or glue terrible.
Yeah.
The fact that I don't I love animals and I would hate to see them suffer, but being able to craft something to gas birds is just wild to me.
I will say I was very glad that, like, despite the fact that that was like a heavy piece of like what I think kind of makes the book horror, I think that it wasn't overdone, because the reason I don't read horror is for scenes like the bird skin and blah blah blah, and so that there wasn't too much of that in there, that I would class this more as a thriller than I would as a horror. But I'm
agree.
happy about that.
No, I would agree. I'd lean towards thriller on this one. It's just the sense of just trying to figure it out and piece it together.
Yeah.
I
do think the birds like kind of like is another example of what I said, that it makes sense in both contexts. Like, okay, because again, in the afterwards, she talks about like there are a lot of documented cases of serial killers. The only attachment they have is to their pets, right? They would do anything to protect their pets. And I think that I completely believed it, even when I thought that Ted was a murderer, that he would mercy kill these birds, which again, we like see as cruel, but that Ted saw as kind because they're ripping their skin off and slowly dying.
Right.
And that he basically gas chambered them so they died really quickly and painlessly. More painlessly than the way that they were going to die. And I think it makes sense in both contexts, in the Ted is a horrible man and Ted is a decent man.
And see, I think that exactly what you're talking about, that relationship like between serial killers and their pets, is kind of how Ted being a serial killer got eliminated as a theory for me as we go into the book, and he behaves towards Olivia the way that he does when he the whole scene where he like cuts her hair and is like manhandling her. I'm like, that was the point where I think DID got more solidified for me than Ted being the villain, because at that point he's like attacking himself.
Yeah.
But absolutely. And gas chamber, and I think we're learned too much about science and things like that from books like this. Sometimes it's a how-to guide. True crime really becomes a how-to guide, and that makes me nervous in some ways too.
Tim says all the time that if I ever decided to kill him, no one would ever catch me because of all the crime that I consume.
The deeper question is the animals to the person. What identity or memory are those animals that are being freed?
Yeah.
No, I'm with you on that one. You guys had, I had one question I kind of wanted to pose to you guys. My question was, if Dee knew all along that Ted didn't kill her sister, like why on earth did she move next door?
She still thought that he took her because she was convinced herself that she was still alive. That's why she even went back, and then she saw the car drive away. So she did think that someone had taken her, and I think just because of the connection, I think that she was looking for anywhere to place blame other than herself.
I can see that. Okay. I just wanted to. I definitely wanted to get you guys' opinion on that one. It was just one of my few lingering questions. I kind of wanted.
My lingering question is, who are the green men upstairs? That is what I want to know.
I think the green boys are the ones that his mom killed, because he alludes to how his mom didn't go for girls,
right?
And which is why I think is one of the reasons that having killed Lulu was something that set his mom over the edge because it was a little girl. I think the Green Boys were his mom's victims because
Okay.
I think his mom was a serial killer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they try to find the bodies. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
We love a good snake bite death. Yeah. Love a good
Yeah.
snake bite. Love that whole little you don't ever think about it, then you get fucking snatched up by a snake. How does mother being buried in the backyard and being perceived as like this god, how does that weigh on you guys?
Yeah, so I assumed that they were other victims, right? That he was digging up, and then we
Trophies.
find out, like the only
Yeah.
one they tell us are like the blue dress, and you're like, oh, okay, so it's actually trophies instead. But it's
Yeah.
all his mom's stuff that she left.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, and it's scattered. Yeah, I don't really know. I think he has kind of probably two separate sets of memories of his mother,
Yeah.
like as the natural inclination we have to view our mothers as like a safe space and a caretaker, when he knew that that wasn't the truth because she abused him his whole life.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it made sense to deify his mom, especially when he's talking about like she saw him for what he actually was and still took care of him. I think that's very within reach of like how we see religion.
No, I can see that. But man, fucking putting boiling hot water and salt in his wounds as a young boy, like ugh.
Stitching up cuts that weren't there,
Right.
Or creating cuts
and at
to
her
stitch
school,
them up. Yeah.
fired. Yeah,
It was no, it was
stitching up imaginary cuts.
That's why I'm curious, like how are they gonna make this into a movie? Because in my brain, Ted's horrendous. Like he's not a good looking guy.
I wonder who
Like
they
he's
get.
not a picking up girls at the bar kind of guy.
And we hear from Lauren, which obviously not all of the physical damage is represented because Ted has feet that he can use. But she says that, like, you know, all of her hair is gone. She has scars on her face from like the boiling water throughout the years, that like so much that like one of her eyes is almost closed. So I wonder how much, because we don't really get a lot of physical description about Ted, other than hair
His
color.
hair and his falling out. Yeah.
I could see this being made in a movie as a very handsome, good-looking actor playing Ted, and then the reveal comes slowly that his true appearance. I could see that.
That could be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brian just Norman always went to his mother when things went wrong and was like, yeah, there's a good Norman Bates, correlation as well.
Mhm.
I really enjoyed the book. I'm glad you all enjoyed the book. I'm glad Kiara suggested this book because I don't know if I would have picked this book up just as my. I start from one end of horror to the other end at Barnes & Noble, and I just kind of just paying all the shelves. I don't know if this cover alone was just the kitty cat in the house on it would have got me, but I'm glad, Kiara, you picked it. So thank you. It was more universally loved than last month's book. So
I am still a tender as the flesh stan.
I'm excited for the next one.
Yes.
I've got it. I haven't
Glad I
it
read it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't read it again.
Very diplomatic answer.
I don't know if I could. I don't think I could read it again, but it stuck with me because I'm like, oh, holy shit, yeah, I read that book. Because it'll be another 10 years from now, somebody will be bringing it up or something like, oh, that book, yeah, I read that book.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can jump into this part of pen pals. Allory, I don't think there's a way for me to speed it up for your liking.
It's okay. I'll read along with it. One time speed is crazy.
I don't. Well, the thing is, I think the way the story was presented, I think that the book you have is a lot more fleshed out. I think they went and turned it into a full book after the story came out on, r/no sleep or the Creepypasta, what have you.
It's 238 pages.
I'm gonna go on a limb and say this is a condensed version of it. But
Okay,
let me
Just
pull it up.
Footsteps is 35 pages.
Okay.
I'll read along with part 2 and I'll let you guys know.
Okay. Well, let me see.
Balloons, right? Yep.
Yes, balloons. Can you guys can obviously see this on the screen. Can you guys see the volume and the play button at the bottom there, or no? Just me?
No.
So it's only me running this thing? Okay. I was wanting to see if you guys would be able to hit pause if you had something you wanted to say, but it will just raise a hand. I don't know. Is that what you do in school, Allory? They would just raise a hand if they got a question?
No, they mostly just yell at me, bro, what's number 5?
Love it. All right, so we had part 1, footsteps. He can't remember leaving his house. He left a note saying he was running away, but he definitely didn't write the note. And everyone knows they don't spell his name that way. And here comes part 2.
The other day, I posted a story called Footsteps. There were a number of questions that made me curious about certain details about my childhood, so I spoke with my mother. Exacerbated by my questions, she said, "Why don't you just tell them about the goddamn balloons if they're so interested?" As soon as she said that, I remembered so much about my childhood that I'd forgotten. This story should provide some greater context for the previous story, which I think you should listen to first. Though the order isn't of vital importance, listening to that story first will put you in my place, more effectively since I remembered the events of Footsteps first. If you have questions or anything, feel free to ask and I'll try to answer them. Also, both stories are long, so heads up on that. I'm just hesitant to leave out any detail that might be important.
So, of course, you recognize this was published on like a Creepypasta or like an r/no sleeve. So, like, you get a piece of the story, update, here comes the next piece, the format of how this story was presented.
When I was 5 years old, I went to an elementary school that, from what I've come to understand, was really adamant about the importance of learning through activity. I was part of a new program designed to allow children to raise at their own pace. And to facilitate this, the school encouraged teachers to come up with really inventive lesson plans. Each teacher was given the latitude to create his or her own themes which would run for the duration of the grade, and all their lessons in math, reading, etc. would be designed in the spirit of the theme. These themes were called groups. There was a space group, a sea group, an earth group, and the group I was in, community. In kindergarten in this country, you don't learn much except how to tie your shoes and how to share, so most of it isn't very memorable. I only remember 2 things very clearly. I was the best at writing my name in the right way, and the balloon project, which was really the hallmark of the community group, since it was a pretty clever way to show how community functioned at a really basic level. You've probably heard of this activity. On one Friday, I remember it being Friday because I was excited about the project and it being the end of the week. Toward the beginning of the year, we walked into the classroom in the morning and saw that there was a fully inflated balloon tied off with a string taped to each of our desks. Sitting on each of our desks was a marker and a pen and a piece of paper and an envelope. The project was to write a note on the paper, put it in the envelope, and attach it to the balloon, which we would draw a picture on if we wanted. Most of the kids started fighting over the balloons because they wanted different colours, but I started on my note, which I had thought a lot about. All the notes had to follow a loose structure, but we were allowed to be creative within those boundaries. My note was something like this. "Hi, you found my balloon. My name is... and I attend elementary school. You can keep the balloon, but I hope you write me back. I like Mighty Max, exploring, building forts, swimming, and friends. What do you like? Write me back soon. Here's $1 for the mail." On the dollar, I wrote 4 stamps, right across the front, which my mum said was unnecessary, but I thought it was genius, so I did it. The teacher took a Polaroid of each of us with our balloons and had us put them in the envelope along with our letter.
Big pause. big pause. Allory, you're an educator of young minds. Not this young, obviously. Putting pictures of the kids in an envelope and sending it on a balloon. Is that part of your curriculum? Would you admit that one?
No, that is now a violation. That is directory information that can lead you to the student, and that is illegal to post. So
I put it together, and when the story was posted, and this guy would have been in kindergarten right around the same time we were. So we're talking like early 90s. And coming from someone who did kindergarten twice,
that is why he's a year older, in case you were wondering.
Yes, that's why I'm a year older.
We did graduate the same year.
We graduated the same year. I had a buddy that would always give me the business that I didn't play in the sandbox right when I was in kindergarten, so I had to do it again. But yeah, the 90s were a different place or a different time, I suppose. But just sending random pictures of children off in a balloon and just letting us go.
Home video footage of, not from school, but I don't even know what it was from. But we released a balloon and I got a note back from whoever had found it. Like they mailed it back to me.
So you've done something similar to this?
Yeah, it was like a Mylar balloon, and they sent the deflated balloon and a note back to me. And like I have it on camera. Like my grandpa recorded me reading the letter.
That's why, and you know what? Good. We got somebody listen to it. Open his dress.
Name, picture, address.
See, Brian, you have to come back on with us, man. I'm glad you're listening to this with us. All right, yeah, I just thought it was crazy, but again, we all lived in the 90s. All right.
They also included another letter that I assumed explained the nature of the project and sincere appreciation for anyone's participation in writing back and sending photos of their city or neighborhood. That was the whole idea, to build a sense of community without having to leave the school, and to establish safe contact with other people. It seemed like such a fun idea. Over the next couple weeks, the letters started to roll in. Most came with pictures of different landmarks, and each time a letter would come in, the teacher would pin the picture on a big wall map we had put up showing where the letter had come from and how far the balloon had travelled. It was a really smart idea because we actually looked forward to coming to school to see if we had gotten our letter. For the duration of the year, we had one day a week where we could write back to our PenPal or another student's PenPal in case our letter hadn't come in yet. Mine was one of the last to arrive. When I came into class, I looked at my desk and, once again, didn't see a letter waiting for me. But as I sat down, the teacher approached me and handed me an envelope. I must have looked so excited because, as I was about to open it, she put a hand on mine to stop me and said, "Please don't be upset." I didn't understand what she meant. Why would I be upset now that my letter had come? Initially, I was mystified that she would even know what was in the envelope, but now I realized that, of course, the teachers had screened the contents to make sure there was nothing obscene, but all the same, how could I be disappointed? When I opened the envelope, I understood. There was no letter. The only thing in the envelope was a Polaroid, but I couldn't really make out what it was. It looked like a patch of desert, but it was too blurry to decipher. It appeared as if the camera had been moved while the picture was being taken. There was no return address, so I couldn't even write back if I wanted to. I was crushed. The school year pressed on, and the letters had stopped coming for nearly all of the other students. After all, you can only continue a written correspondence with a kindergartner for so long.
Weird, but when it comes to the point of that, like if you were a teacher and you saw that one of your students didn't receive a letter back and then just saw some just received some odd obscure pictures, would you as a teacher just lie to the kid? Would you just make the letter yourself and just like, "Hi, I'm from Albuquerque"?
No. Like, I don't know what I would do. Like, I don't really work with younger kids, but no, I mean, I think that it's fine. I'm sure the project was prefaced with like, not everybody's going to get a letter back. Like, your balloon might not be found, or someone just might ignore it or whatever. I also have to say, for like reading along with this chapter, I just had to skip like 6 or 7 whole pages in this chapter to get to where we were in the story.
Right. Like I said, this being a shorter creepypasta format, I'm certain when it comes to the novel, they put a lot of extra in there to flesh it out. No, I remember distinctly as a kid, and one week in school we had like fake summer camp. Like and our parents would write us to the school and they're like, "Hey, I hope you're having fun at summer camp. I hope you get to play on the jet skis." And like, it's totally fabricated and all that. But like, I feel like, if all the kids, I think I would have just made the kids let her up. I would have just been like, "Hey, I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's real hot here. Or how's the weather there?" Or just something mundane or something of the sort.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Oh, hold on. We got Brian again. I would have asked him to write another kid's pen pal. Weird picture, no letter, red flags. I hear you there.
At least they're looking in the envelopes before they're just handing them to the kids.
At least they're being screened.
There are 3 dick pics.
Including myself, had lost interest in the letters almost completely. Then I got another envelope. My excitement was rejuvenated, and I reveled in the fact that I was still getting a letter when most of the other pen pals had abandoned their involvement. It made sense that I received another delivery. There had been nothing but a blurry picture in the first one, so this was probably to make up for that. But again, there was no letter at all, just a picture. This one was more distinguishable, but I still didn't understand it. The photograph was angled way up, catching the corner of a building, and the rest of the image was distorted by a lens flare from the sun. Because the balloons didn't travel very far, and because they were all launched on the same day, the board became a bit cluttered, and so the policy for students still exchanging letters became that they could take the photographs home. My best friend Josh had the second highest number of pictures taken home by the end of the year. His pen pal was really cooperative and sent him pictures from all around the neighbouring city. Josh took home, I think, 4 pictures. I took home nearly 50. The envelopes were all opened by the teacher, but after a while, I stopped even looking at the pictures. However, I saved them in one of my drawers that housed my collection of rocks, baseball cards, comic book cards, Marvel metal cards for those who might remember.
I remember the Marvel metal cards, but when the teacher, like, all these kids stopped getting letters, and the teacher's like, "All right, Chris, you've got 3 more today," and started to shell them out. Like, are you shitting me?
At what point do you get a restraining order?
Right. At what point do you tell the kid to move towns?
Right. The next highest guy had 4.
Right.
We're talking about over 50.
We're talking about a 74 image gap here.
And little miniature baseball battling helmets that I get out of a vending machine at a Winn-Dixie after T-ball games. With the school year over, my attention turned to other things. My mom had gotten me a small snow cone machine for Christmas that year, and Josh had really coveted it. So much so that his parents bought him a slightly nicer one for his birthday, which was toward the end of the school year. That summer, we had the idea that we would set up a snow cone stand to make money. We thought we'd make a fortune selling snow cones at $1. Josh lived in a different neighborhood, but we eventually decided that my neighborhood would be better because there were a lot of people who cared for their lawns. The yards in my neighborhood were slightly bigger. We did this for 5 weekends in a row until my mom told us that we had to stop. and I've only recently come to understand why she did that. On the 5th weekend, Josh and I were counting our money. Because we both had a machine, we each made a separate stack of money that we put together into one stack, and we then split it evenly. We had made a total of $16 that day, and as Josh paid out my $5th, a feeling of profound surprise consumed me. The dollar said, "For stamps."
That was the mic drop moment for me when I first read this. So, this dude's near. This guy's close by. This guy's watching. This guy bought a fucking snow cone from these little boys.
Yeah.
And he sent this young man 50 fucking Polaroids. That was the mic drop for me. And, we were listening to it in bed, and Jen doesn't get excited for anything, but this was one of these I bowed her the fuck up moments. I was like, oh, for stamps! He lives in the neighborhood. But she's like, yeah, Chris, I saw that a mile away. Okay.
I read that, I read the dollar said 4 stamps in the book about 5 seconds before it said it up there.
Josh noticed my shock and asked if he had miscounted. I told him about the dollar, and he said, "That's so cool, man." As I thought about it, I came to agree. The idea that the dollar had made it right back to me after changing so many hands floored me. I rushed inside to tell my mom, but my excitement, coupled with her being distracted by a phone call, made my story incomprehensible, and she responded simply by saying, "Oh wow, that's neat." Frustrated, I ran back outside and told Josh I had something to show him. Back in my room, I opened the drawer and took out the stack of envelopes and showed him some of the pictures. I started with the first place, and we went through about 10 before Josh lost interest and asked if I wanted to go play in the ditch, a dirt ditch down the street from my house, before his mom came to pick him up. So that's what we did. We had a dirt war for a while, but it was interrupted several times by rustling in the woods around us.
I'll speak on myself being a young boy in the 90s, and I'm sure Brian will chime in too. Dirt wars in a ditch, top tier weekend fun. Just throwing dirt at each other, top notch.
I was a tomboy. I can also attest.
There it is.
There were
Played in the creeks, and then there was, do you remember where Lauren used to live?
Yes.
So those cliffs behind her house, we would climb those like as far as we could, and they're just straight up. Every time I drive by them, I'm like, why were our parents letting us climb those? Because there's a point where you're just hanging. Like we would have to we would hold on to roots and just see how far
fucking Mission Impossible that shit.
Yeah, yeah.
You mean the house you lived when you were coming into Jacksonville?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, no, I know exactly what you're talking about.
We would see how far we could make it up there.
Your parents fucking, you were like this mom. You're like, oh yeah, some guy, creepy guy. She's on the phone.
Go play outside.
Creepy guy messaged you back. Great, honey. All right. Climb a tree, go rock climbing unsupervised. Great memories. I agree.
Raccoons and stray cats that lived in there, but this was making a little too much noise, and we traded guesses as to what it was in an attempt to scare each other. My last guess was that it was a mummy, but in the end, Josh kept insisting that it was a robot because of the sound that we heard. Before we left, he got a little serious and looked me right in the eye and said, "You heard it, didn't you? It sounded like a robot. You heard it too, right?" I had heard it, and since it sounded mechanical, I agreed that it was probably a robot. It's only now that I understand what we heard. When we got back, Josh's mom was waiting for him at the kitchen table with my mom. Josh told his mom about the robot. Our moms laughed and Josh went home. My mom and I ate dinner and then I went to bed. I didn't stay in bed for long before I crept out and decided, due to the day's events, I would revisit the envelope since now the whole affair seemed much more interesting. I took the first envelope and set it on the floor and set the blurry desert Polaroid on top. I laid the second envelope right next to it and placed the oddly angled Polaroid of the building's top corner on top, and did this with each picture until they formed a grid that was about 5 by 10. I was always taught to be careful with things that I was collecting, even if I wasn't sure they were valuable. I noticed that the pictures gradually became more decipherable. There was a tree with a bird on it, a speed limit sign, power line, a group of people walking into some building. And then I saw something that vexed me so powerfully that I can now, as I tell this, distinctly remember feeling dizzy and capable of only a single, repeated thought. Why am I in this picture? In this photograph of the group of people entering the building, I saw myself holding hands with my mother in the very back of the crowd of people. We were at the very edge of the photo, but it was undeniably us. And as my eyes swam over the sea of Polaroids, I became increasingly anxious. It was a really odd feeling. It wasn't fear. It was the feeling you get when you're in trouble. I'm not sure why I was flooded with that feeling, but there I was, floundering in the distant sense that I'd done something wrong. And this feeling only intensified as I looked on at the rest of the photos after that one that had so powerfully struck me. I was in every photo. None of them were close shots, none of them were only of me, but I was in every single one of them. Off to the side, in the back, bottom of the frame. Some of them only had the tiniest part of my face captured at a very edge of a photo, but nevertheless, I was there. I was always there.
All right. This dude has had the opportunity to take upwards of 50 Polaroids of this young boy.
And Polaroid is the important part to remember because that shit doesn't zoom.
Good point. Good point. Well, not even that. You're gonna get the noise too. That that come out, and the dudes across the street just going, just waving it. Well, you think about it. You think about that, and then obviously the absurdity of it and the frightening nature of it too. You think of the frightening nature of it. Like, it's a single mom too. Like, it's a young boy and a single mom who went through a divorce. What you would assume. Now they live in a very nice wooded trailer park. So that arises a bunch of different opportunities and frightening scenarios, in a sense, to me at least.
I didn't know what to do. Your mind works in funny ways as a kid, but there was a large part of me that was afraid of getting in trouble simply for being up. Since I already had the looming feeling of having done something wrong, I decided that I would wait until tomorrow. The next day, my mom was off work and spent most of the morning cleaning up around the house. I watched cartoons, I imagine, and waited until I thought it was a good time to show her the Polaroids. When she went out to get the mail, I grabbed a couple of pictures and put them on the table in front of me as I sat waiting for her to come back in. When she returned, she was already opening the mail and threw some junk mail into the trash can, and I said, "Mom, can you come here for a second? I have these pictures. Just give me a second, honey. I need to mark these on the calendar." After a minute or two, she came and stood behind me and asked me what I needed. I could hear her shuffling with the mail behind me, but I just looked at the Polaroids and told her about them. As I explained more and pointed to the pictures, her frequent uh-huhs and okays decreased, and she was suddenly completely quiet and only making a little noise with the mail. The next noise I heard from her sounded as if she was trying to catch a breath in a room that had no air left in it. At last, her struggling gasps were conquered, and she simply dropped the remaining mail on the table and ran to the kitchen to get the phone. "Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't know about these. Don't be mad at me." With the phone pressed against the ear, she was walking and running back and forth and shouting into it. I nervously fiddled with the mail sitting next to my Polaroids. The top envelope had something sticking out of it that I thoughtlessly and anxiously pulled on until it came out. It was another Polaroid. Confused, I thought that somehow one of my Polaroids had slipped into the stack when she threw the mail down. But when I turned it over and looked at it, I realized that I had not seen this one before. To my dismay, it was me. But this one was a much closer shot. I was surrounded by trees and was smiling. But it wasn't just me, I noticed. Josh was there too. This was us from yesterday. I started yelling for my mom, who was still screaming into the phone. I repeatedly yelled for her until she finally responded with, "What?" And I could only think to ask, "Who are you calling?" "I'm talking with the police, honey." "But why? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do anything." She answered me with a response that I never understood until I was forced to revisit these events from the earliest years of my life. She grabbed the envelope off the table and the picture of Josh and I spun and slid, landing next to the other Polaroids in front of me. She held the envelope up to my eyes, but I could only look at her and watch as all the colour began draining out of her face. With tears welling up in her eyes, she said that she had to call the police because there was no postmark.
You know, the funny thing is, at this age, I think my mom would have been pissed at me. And I'd have, she's like,
Explains why he thought she would be.
right, like, oh, yeah, you're obviously hanging out with this.
Damn it,
dude.
you went and got yourself stalked.
Right. Well, now
You
obviously,
did send him a picture and your address, to be fair.
exactly. I mean,
At the school's direction.
right? I'm like, one,
Technically, he gave the school's
address, which is the creepy part, because this one came to the house.
Yeah.
yes, he gave the return address to the school, and obviously he gets the dollar back. It says for stamp. So this individual came to the neighborhood. He bought a snow cone. He took a picture of him and Josh playing in their dirt ditch, having a dirt war, and he took this Polaroid. Most likely followed these two young boys back to his house. You know, Josh and his mother leave, and he sticks the Polaroid in the mailbox. Thoughts on this one? Where do we think we're going after this?
Is that the end?
That's part 2.
I'm still on board with paranormal.
You're still going spooky?
Yeah.
It's him from the future, some creepiness.
Oh, I like that.
I'm going normal real life, not paranormal. Not that ghosts aren't real, depending on how you feel about life, but I'm going like the first one gave me kidnapping. I'm still in that vein.
Okay, Brian's
People
going
snatcher.
with. Brian believes it's someone at the school.
Ooh.
I like that too. What if it was the teacher all along?
Just, I'm a freak.
I knew where you lived. I'm just trying to freak your little 10-year-old ass out.
Yeah.
I was kind of curious about, and maybe I missed it, because we know he wasn't in the first picture, but then he talks about being in all of the other pictures, or the majority of or is he in the first picture? Because then it's like, did someone know that this assignment was happening before the assignment started?
He said he was in all of them. So the first one was particularly blurry, like someone was moving. So I think he couldn't decipher. And then once he had the clear one, he was able to go back and be like, oh my God, like that's like my elbow or something, like just.
Yeah, the way he states it is the first one was blurry. It looked like it was almost in a desert. Maybe he was, in fact, he, obviously sees him in the one picture, goes back and just pinpoints himself, pieces of him in the other photos. Maybe it's him in, playing in the dirt or something. Maybe he confuses the desert dirt, maybe sun flare or what have you. No, you're right. He was a little unclear on that one, because it did seem like the first picture he received was nothing, and the next one was just a corner of a building. So maybe that, or maybe just young kindergarten kid sees a picture. What the hell is this? Nothing. And then he goes and looks at those fine, minute details or whatnot. That's part 2. There are 5 or 6 parts. We could, I think they're all about 10 to 20 minutes long. Allory, how many chapters have they got now? And then the book
6.
itself? 6?
Yeah.
Okay. There definitely becomes some creepy. There definitely some creepiness comes to it. There's definitely comes to. I hate to say it. I think we're fucking batting 1,000 for this. I think there's some animal cruelty in this one too. I know. It's like the one. It's the one that you can kill Josh and his mom. Leave the pets alone. But I liked it. Like I said, I had the holy shit moment as soon as I got 4 stamps, and then he started, going through the pictures. I'm like, oh, this dude's in all of them, and dead on with that one. Brian says 50 pictures means this person is comfortable and has access to him freely. Yeah, I would agree with that. And fucking kindergartners are so oblivious to their surroundings as well. Let's be real.
Yeah.
You could have snatched him
A
and Josh
robot.
up. Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you said that, because those weird noises the boys hear, they come back in a big way. They come back in a very big way, and it's really cool. I would assume it in Allory's book, it probably leads you directly to it, but in this creepypasta format, you have to go ahead and put it together. You're like, oh, that's what that is. Being Allory's book being a little bit more fleshed out. But that was part 2 of PenPal. That was Balloons. Ladies, if you enjoyed it, I can queue up part 3 for 2 weeks from now.
I'm sold. I'm
Boxes is part 3.
Good. Next week we will not be here, but next week Allory has a birthday. Allory, what are we doing next week?
I have no idea.
It is raining here, so I'm gonna have to put the grill underneath the awning in the backyard and grill my steaks today.
I'm grilling steaks today too.
Just look at the smell. I think there's so much serotonin from the smell of the grill, though.
Well, that's the thing. Jen won't come out, and she'll make me take them out there and a different plate and all that. She's like, I don't want to do it because that shit just sticks to me. It's not. I like charcoal. I'm a charcoal guy. So that's all we're doing today. It's 100% chance of rain all day, and it's Washington. So,
yeah, it's pretty gloomy here too, though. Like
yeah,
we're at 48 degrees, which is lower than it has been, but still better. So I'll take what I can get.
Word. We've got next time we can be. Go ahead.
Oh, I said bless you to Laura.
Oh.
She's sweet.
The 6th of April. 6th April. What do we want to do for April? We'll come together as a collective, as a book. I've made a recommendation. Kiara's made a recommendation. It's going to be between Allory and Laura. You guys are going to have to come together as a collective. We'll decide our next read.
Smut.
That's what I was going to say.
You need to pick a short smut if we're going smut.
An 8-book series.
Right. Well, if we're going smut, you got to keep it under 300 for me, or I'm just not going to fit. You got to keep it short for me. Thank you, Brian.
I'll just pick some.
I'm with it.
I have about 400 unread books behind me. So.
Do you really?
Yeah, I've got a big stack in my.
My stack is right here.
Oh, I've got a whole book.
Have not read most of these.
You
one side of the room.
You were fucking killing it.
Hell yeah.
To the floor.
Plans for the rest of the day?
Tim and I might go have dinner because I don't want to cook and I have to go get a bunch of stuff from Athens to meal prep for the week.
Love it. Laura?
Making steaks later. Making steak pinwheels. So I'm really excited about it.
Ooh, you culinary artist, you.
Yeah.
Kiara, what about you?
Grocery shopping. 75 hard starts tomorrow. So gotta get the meal prep together. The weather's nice enough now. I feel like I can commit to that one workout that has to happen outside. So
Hell yeah. Brian, women's college basketball tournament. Yeah. Ooh, I actually am. The daughter and we're going to watch the Ohio State women go for their third national championship in the last 4 years in hockey. That'll be on ESPN. We're going to watch that today.
hell yeah.
Those women are absolutely killers on the ice. I think that's about it. I want to ask you guys a question off air real quick, but other than that, I think that's it. In 2 weeks, we got to think of a theme for 2 weeks. What do we want to? What did we do this last week? We did phenomenal women. The month before that, we did. I can't remember what makes
First, memorable firsts or something like that.
Yep, famous firsts. You're right. What does April line up with? Do we have any type of theme for the month? What is April? I'm sure we've got something.
April shower.
Right, just books where it rains. It's just mud.
Ones that make you cry. Oh, we went right in different directions.
Right.
But
we were
I
thinking
do like
about
the cry. Yeah.
different.
I don't cry at a lot of books.
Moistures. Okay.
Yeah, moistures.
Bodily fluids all around.
Yes. Oh, great. This is Brian. Rain as the main character. Ooh, that's going to be a niche sell on that one. Ladies, always a pleasure. I love jumping on with you guys twice a month. I love as active and vibrant the group chat is. If we do choose smut again, just own it in a little bit for me.
What you want us to read
about
cannibalism, but you can't read about smut?
I'm gonna say I was like 50-50 on the book.
Right? You're still eating someone.
I mean, I didn't go into detail about never mind. We're not going to say any of that. Any of that book was smut. I don't know. Yeah, I don't own smut. I think the closest thing I have to smut is my wife's bookshelf, and it's like Sarah J. Maas.
That's not real smut.
No, but she gets kind of hot and bothered, and she's like, "What?
It's not light,
right? Oh, it's light, really?
Yes.
I need to let her know that.
I have no smut experience whatsoever. Manacled is it. The only sexy book I've read in my life. So
okay.
Take that into advisement when you're picking for me. You're also Chris and I are on the same boat there.
Oh, I see my wife outside with the dog. Okay, well, she's awake now. Ladies, I will see you again in 2 weeks. Brian, love to have you back. If you want to join, bud, just shoot me a message. I don't know where you are, but I hope you're doing well. I hope you're thriving. I hope you are safe. Rain is the main character. That's a wild one.
Thank you, viewer.
Yes, our loyal disciple. I'll hit you up. All right. Plot points. I'm Chris. I will see you guys again in 2 weeks. And for the about 8 people that jumped on, thanks. Appreciate it. Have a good Sunday.
Bye.